I've had a hankering to play an adventure game, and having done a lot of fantasy lately, I could also use a healthy dose of sci-fi, which made Whispers of a Machine a natural choice to sate both of my appetites. Developed by Clifftop Games, the same developers of the Cathy Rain series, and Faravid Interactive, and published by Raw Fury, Whispers of a Machine thrusts the player into the role of Vera Englund, an augmented special agent who travels to the town of Nordsund in order to lead an investigation into a rash of grisly murders that have gripped the town. Though, as I just divulged, I was left completely unsurprised that the game did scratch a particular itch for me, I must say that I came to truly enjoy its presentation and setting. It's a bit difficult to pin down, actually. It's a little dystopian, a little cyberpunk, a little industrial, and even a bit Nordic, not all that surprising considering the location is based on a futuristic Sweden, but that last one is quite unlike the others. Whereas you might expect all of those different stylings to clash with one another, they actually work well together, managing to combine in order to create a believable and engaging world. See, in whatever timeline it is that Whispers of a Machine takes place, the future world has decided that technology which can think for itself, think artificial intelligence and more advanced computer systems in general, cannot be trusted and as such have been outlawed. As would probably happen if we were to attempt something similar today, that means there's a lot of burnt out tech that must be disposed of, and how in a future world where people once again must use pen and paper, you can have a sect of technologically superpowered federal agents working cases. That there is so much analog in the world helps to ground the environment in something that feels a lot more realistic than the traditional sci-fi world. Though a world with effectively zero smart technology might feel equally unrealistic in the other direction today, that it presents so while maintaining enough fantastical elements, getting the best of what we can tangibly relate to and what we can only imagine, helps to deliver the sci-fi aesthetic without things going over the top. Everything is clearly futuristic, best seen in the construction of the buildings, and yet it's realistic enough that there's a humble street mural artist conducting his work. It's just neat to see those two worlds colliding in a way you usually don't. Perhaps it's because no one can stand the state of the world today that we've fallen so hopelessly in love with the trappings of endless neon and technological advancement to the point we practically don't have to lift a finger to get through life, but to see Whispers of a Machine take a different approach is a welcome change of pace. It's all shown off expertly through the graphics as well. Each of the backgrounds are hand-drawn and seriously detailed. The pixel art of the characters, both in the models and the headshots during conversation, are phenomenally well done as well. The appearance of the characters, from the way they dress to the fact that you certainly won't find anyone sporting something like a cybernetic eye in this future, further helps to drive home the grittiness that comes with the somewhat lower tech presentation. The individuals themselves take after the world. Everyone is, well, normal, almost to a fault. It's here that I think the writing deserves some real credit for just how well it's done. Even without any overtly eye-catching or intriguing outward qualities to be assigned to the various persons, the conversations you have with them are still fruitful and interesting. I routinely found myself exhausting every available option, even if just to uncover everyone's viewpoint and opinions. It helps that you'll definitely want a lot of this information, as most all of it will pertain to the mystery you're attempting to solve, but that it's so enjoyable to uncover makes it all the better. I came to appreciate how straight everyone was played with regard to their personalities as well. There's no ridiculously over-the-top or strange character in the bunch for the purpose of throwing up a red herring or anything like that, letting each character stand on their own as a part of the world. Vera gets some quality characterization of her own, mainly through the use of flashbacks and dream sequences with an old flame named Alex. There isn't a bad voiceover in the bunch either. Just good and better. It's just as well that the characters are so fun to talk to because it's from them that you'll typically be learning more about the world. Save for the absolutely massive, if not still fun, despite its obviousness, exposition dump that is the local museum, most anything you find out about the sleepy little community that is Nordsund comes from its inhabitants. Though the overall style of this future might stray from the formula of its contemporaries, the world building is still strapped with themes of governmental intersection, personal responsibility, and what it really means to be human. So you've got nothing to fear if you were worried that it wouldn't hit those notes. Still, it does so well, and overall, everything I've mentioned really does fit together like a glove. Pair that with an awesome soundtrack, one that I can only think to describe as techno-inspired noir, that's atmospheric and introspective, combining MIDI and proper instrumentation, and you've got me gacked to the gills in my love for how this game presents itself. There's a ton of music overall, considering this is only a 4-hour or so long game. Composer Jacob Link certainly earned his keep. The reason I've just spent all that time gushing about this game's presentation is because if there's any sin Whispers of a Machine is guilty of, it's the fact that it isn't exactly remarkable from a gameplay standpoint. It's fine. You've got your expected inventory object puzzles, a notebook to keep track of the numerous branching threads you come across through your detective work, and a story that, while not bad, isn't exactly mind-blowing. Taking place over the course of 3 days, it just sort of saunters along until it eventually drops the killer in front of you in what is an absolutely wild, borderline shark-jumping third act. Seriously, adventure game devs, can we please wrap up a story in a manner that isn't alien to the rest of the game? I understand this is a problem even some of the most renowned adventure games of all time suffer from, but seriously, it can't be that hard. Like I said, it isn't bad, but it's probably something of a microcosm of the fact that Whispers of a Machine's actual gameplay does struggle to a real degree to leave any sort of lasting impression or impact, which is precisely why I wanted to talk about it today, because to its credit, it does try to introduce some things in order to assuage those issues. The primary gameplay mechanic in Whispers of a Machine is twofold, the first being the selection of augmentations you receive due to Vera's injection with a confidential substance referred to as the Blue, allowing her to do things like grant herself super strength for a short time, or scan the pulse of whomever she may be talking to in order to discern whether or not they're lying, whereas the second is the development of her own personal ideology and style. Throughout the course of your adventure, you will have several instances wherein the dialogue option you choose shifts Vera's personality more towards being either empathetic, assertive, or analytical, with rare instances of the actions you commit doing the same. This not only changes the course of dialogue and how characters react to you, but also which additional augmentations you unlock as the game progresses and Vera becomes more attuned with the Blue. I absolutely goddamn love this. See, about a month ago, I got a question from a lovely viewer about what sort of mechanics might be able to build upon or even evolve from the tried and true inventory object puzzle formula that, let's be honest, are probably the only way adventure games have found success. And while I'm not sure there's a real answer to that question, let's be honest, most adventure games that stray from inventory puzzles oftentimes wind up feeling awkward or zany, I do think a fairly logical way forward might be to run more gameplay through the main character themselves. Being able to use Vera's skills throughout the world does wonders to add another dimension to the gameplay as a whole. It grants more credibility to the character themselves and forces the player to think beyond whatever items they might be holding at any given time. Both of those facets are only made even better when you get to use skills dictated by your choices. It lets the player grow more attached to the character by way of making their choices matter, and adds a certain level of uniqueness to any one player's time spent with the game. I tend to lean more towards being empathetic with the occasional assertive quip, eventually allowing me to wipe people's minds for a short time and impersonate others. If you were to choose differently, then you would unlock different skills and as such have a different experience with the game by way of needing to complete puzzles and hurdles in a way as dictated by your own choices. It is possible to have this sort of player-driven gameplay in adventure games and could pay real dividends in terms of helping to inject some life into the genre. Think of it like taking the best parts of those Telltale visual novels from the early 2010s, but combining it with the actual puzzles and required deductive skills of adventure games. The problem with this premise in Whispers of a Machine, and why I don't think it ultimately does much to elevate its gameplay, is because, at least as far as the overarching narrative is concerned, it doesn't actually change anything. Like, the way you proceed is changed depending on how you act, but the final end result of the major plot points does not. If it did, my goodness, it would be exactly what I would want to see from this sort of player expression. I think in order for these types of implementations to make a real impact in the genre, then they need to have a visible impact on that which is most important to said genre, which is the story. I love the effort from Whispers of a Machine here, but it just needs to be taken a step or two further for it to really hit the mark. At least for me. That being said, I do still think Whispers of a Machine is worth playing. That the gameplay is simply typical doesn't mean it's bad, and I personally loved its atmosphere and setting. I love the road that it starts down with the way it brings some player expression into the formula, but wish it really had the guts to take it even further with regard to things like its narrative, because I think doing so really could have taken this from a good, if somewhat forgettable adventure game entry into a fantastic title that would have demanded some real attention. The pieces were all there, they just needed a little more polishing.